Okay, I guess we'll call the meeting of the Salary Board to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of the Flag.
Of the United States of America and nation, indivisible.
Chairman Schock announced that today's salary board was duly advertised in the local newspaper. At this time, we ask for public input on agenda items only. Hearing none, we'll continue. Motions need to approve and dispense with the reading of the minutes of the salary board meeting of Tuesday, June 6, 2017.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded on the question. All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Motions need to correct the following errors in the classification and compensation plan adopted August 11, 2015 for the Department of Public Safety. A, change the title of the department to Public Safety and list 911 and EMA under it. The department's title is Emergency Management with Public Safety listed under it. B, change title of 911 Project Director to 911 Coordinator. C, change the hours of the 911 Operations Supervisors to reflect 80 hours instead of 66 hours. D, change the starting salaries of the 911 operator supervisors from $29,000 to $32,000 to reflect the 80 hours instead of 66 hours.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded on the question. Just to clarify for folks, this is not actually changing policy. I think that the document itself was not reflecting correctly what the existing, hours were, what the existing starting salaries were that were in place at the time, as well as some of those, the titles. So, is there any other comment? Okay, all in favor state aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motions need to increase the salary of the sheriff's chief deputy at an above starting salary of $38,000 at 40 hours per week.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Second.
Made and seconded. And I apologize, I should have been calling for a roll, I think, on those others, but they're not as important. We'll start with a roll call. If there's anything on the question before we do that. Okay.
Yes.
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 Yes. Motion carries. Sorry?
Chairman Shaw.
Sheriff, get a vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, the sheriff as well, because it affects your department. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
This time, call for any old business. Any new business at this time? Any opportunity for public input? Okay.
None, we'll recess to the call of the chair. And we'll now call to order the public meeting of the County Commissioners.
Call for citizens' input for agenda items only. None. A motion is needed to approve and dispense with the reading of the minutes of the Commissioners' public meeting held on Tuesday, September 5th, 2017.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Made and second on the question. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motion is needed to pay all county and liquid fuels payrolls as submitted by the Human Resource Office for payroll number 18 in the amount of $669,420.49 and payroll number 19 in the amount of $684,070.02.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and second on the question. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motions need to pay all county and liquid fuel bills as submitted by the county controller in the amount of $6,018,925.17 from August 26, 2017 to September 29, 2017.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and second on the question. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Announcements. The next regular public meeting will be held on Tuesday, November 14th, 2017 at 1 p.m. in the public meeting room in the Administration Center at 399 Stadium Drive, Sunbury. A work session will be held on Tuesday, October 17th, 2017, beginning at 10 a.m. in the Commissioners' Conference Room. The Northumberland County Courthouse Administration Center and related county facilities will be closed on Monday, October 9th, 2017, in observance of the Columbus Day holiday, Tuesday, November 7th, 2017, in observance of the Election Day holiday, and Friday, November 10th, 2017, in observance of the Veterans Day holiday. A motion is needed to approve a letter of support from the Northumberland County Commissioners for an application to the Department of Community and Economic Development on behalf of the Albright Center and Sunbury Revitalization Incorporated. Ratification.
Motion?
So moved.
Second?
Motion made and second on the question. All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
A motion is needed for the Commissioners to sign the state tax equalization voucher for transfers of real estate for the month of August 2017, as submitted by the Assessment Office.
Is there a
So
motion?
moved.
Second?
Okay. Motion made and second on the question. All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motions need to approve the employee status sheet list of new hires, individuals no longer employed, promotions, demotions, and transfers as items number 1 through 21.
So moved.
Second?
Motion made and second on the question. All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motions need to authorize a monetary grant match for Northumberland County's participation in the ARC Rural Broadband Project.
So moved.
Second?
Motion made and second on the question. All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motions need to grant permission for Sean Dieter to construct a granite Vietnam memorial to be located by Northumberland County Courthouse, 201 Market Street, Sunbury, subject to approval by the County Commissioners as to design and placement.
So moved.
Second?
Motion made and second on the question. This is an individual who had come to us and had a very good idea for a memorial in some space that's being unutilized next to our courthouse. So we basically wanted to give him the go-ahead, subject to obviously, specking out the exact spot and what the design would be to make sure it's something that's, desirable in terms of, aesthetically at the courthouse. So, any other comment on that one? Okay. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motions need to approve the following reports as listed on your public meeting agenda.
Motion?
So moved.
Second?
Motion made second on the question. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motions need authorizing permission to advertise for the following: a bid request for supply and delivery of heating oil for various county buildings on behalf of the county engineer.
So moved.
Second?
Motion made second on the question. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motions need authorizing the Commissioners to sign the Juvenile Probation Services Grant Agreement through the Juvenile Courts Judges Commission in the amount of $151,537 for the fiscal year 2017-2018, as submitted by Chief Probation Officer Tim Heitzman.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
On the question? All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motions need to appoint Ms. Janice Kotica to the Seated Foundation Board to fill the unexpired term of Mr. Justin Dungelberger ending June 30th, 2018.
So moved.
Second?
Motion made second on the question. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motions need to authorize the solicitor to prepare and file a civil complaint in the Northumberland County Court of Common Pleas seeking reimbursement of certain building permit fees from the Township of Cole related to the Northumberland County Prison.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
I'll second. On the question? Okay. I think there's been, quite a bit in the press about this. Oh, I'm sorry. Did somebody?
somebody
Oh, I didn't hear what you. Okay, go ahead. Yep. Come on up. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
My name is Dean Williard. I live in the borough of Herndon, so I have no direct involvement with Cole Township. The letters from the Cole Township Commissioners burdened by prison, I'm sure you have all read that, and I realize why the county wouldn't have responded in like manner in a letter to the editor. But what gets at my common sense approach to this, I've been involved in local government and municipal authorities, is were the commissioners aware of this fee going into the prison project? That's a yes or no.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Why are we now addressing that issue? Why didn't we do that before we started the project?
The reason, sir, that it wouldn't have been done before is because we probably would have run into the same issue that we're running into now, which is that the Cole Township Commissioners would attempt to hold the project up unless we agree to what is an illegally excessive permit fee. The law on this is very clear, and the method that we took and the approach that we took is the same one that a lot of other developers and entities that have projects like this take, which is to pay it under protest.
There's been other county governments that have disputed those fees in the past?
There's been, I don't know if there's county governments, there are
I'm talking
private developers as
I'm
well.
talking about a government entity.
Mhm.
Where I can appreciate
Mhm.
Cole Township Commissioners is the fact, as they stated, it's, with the previous business that was there, they were getting tax revenue.
But they were not. It was a tax, it was not a taxable entity.
Tax-free?
No, they did get a tax revenue from them.
Oh, okay, well, then I stand corrected.
That's one of the reasons we selected that site. When it was a factor, we weren't taking anything off the tax rolls. It was already.
May I comment on that, just that particular issue about the taxes?
Sure.
When a nonprofit empties their buildings and they're no longer using it for that purpose, you can collect taxes, and the law is very clear on that. And we did discuss that they had emptied almost all of the buildings at the time that we were speccing that for the prison. And we did talk about and even ask about how much money we could collect in taxes up there.
Well, did the commissioners anticipate since it appears that the majority commissioners anticipated a dispute to arise over this 1%, did they also allow in the budget the cost of the legal fees that we're going to incur?
There were allowances in the budget for the permit fees themselves. And I think that's one of the things that's been in the paper that is erroneous and there's been this presumption that we didn't account for that at all. That is in the amounts that we had for basically contingencies. However, the discussions very early on with our project manager were, recognizing that this fee, as applied to a project of this size, would be considered excessive and would be illegal for them to charge. And so we knew that what we wanted to do was enter into a conversation with the commissioners from Cole Township. We made multiple attempts to discuss the matter with them. They would not even take a meeting with us. So that's why we've had no choice but to go this route as opposed to paying $250,000 in fees that are not justified.
Did you guys put that in writing to them that you wanted to discuss that?
I personally went up
Yeah.
several times to the Cole Township Municipal Building, talked to their Mr. Slaby, and he basically would go back to the commissioners and each time asking if they would like to meet so we could talk and discuss this, probably 2 or 3 times, and every time they basically said no. And I kept saying, well, can we get together? Their answer is no. That was Mr. Slaby's answer.
And they do, at this point, have something in writing in terms of our payment under protest, and there's the invitation in there if they want to discuss it now. We could be discussing it tomorrow if they had wanted to, and if they choose to come to the table and
Listen,
discuss it. They choose
can I
not
just
to.
say, this is something, I go to every construction meeting we have, every 2 weeks, since we had them, over a year ago.
And I appreciate that.
This is something that has been discussed at our meetings probably for 3 or 4 months, okay? It was made aware by some attorneys, our project manager. They went out to other municipalities, and they basically said it's an excessive fee. I didn't decide this. It's not my money. But when I kept getting told this was excessive, then I tried to approach Cole Township.
Okay.
Not right in the paper. I went personally to them several times. Can we talk about it? Well, in the meantime, we found cases, and I'm not a lawyer, that show where the fee is excessive. And that's where we got to a point after the project was going to be stopped without any discussion with us that we found out in the paper. Listen, I'm here to protect the people who elected me and their tax money. I live in Cole Township, okay? But I don't feel we're doing anything, if we're right, taking money away from Cole Township, because I think it's an illegal fee. That's what, in my mind, I think. Do I know if I'm right? I'm not a lawyer. But if I don't pursue this and I am right, then I'm letting down the people who elected me $250,000, and I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't feel that's an illegal fee, but I have a better understanding now that it's an excessive fee. I could see that perspective, you know.
And when you can't get together to work it out, listen, of anybody, I hate to have to go to court to do this, but we can't get any communication, and that's what we have to do. I can't just let $250,000 of taxpayers' money go. If I did, I wouldn't be able to sleep, and I don't want that to happen. But I appreciate your questions.
I appreciate your frankness.
Thank you. Right.
Thank you. And just to give, there's a lot of information, and I would characterize it as misinformation that's being put out about this. Just to give one example of that, the claim has been made that frankly it's justified to charge this fee because there's going to be all these additional police costs because of the fact that we have the prison there for investigations at the prison, for whenever anything happens at the prison, that it'll be a burden on the Cole Township Police Department. And we recognize that as being something that would not be true, because frankly, when issues happen at the prison, we have a county detective who handles those things. I did ask our county detective, Dave Stark, to come today just to let us, give us his information in terms of, since we have been out at the Cole Township State Facility, my understanding is that if something happens there and it involves the state prisoners, the state police, I think, show up for that. When it happens for ours, we handle it the way that we have handled it for years, even when the prison was down here in Sunbury. Would you mind just giving a description of that and the number of incidents over, it's been almost 3 years, I think, that they've been out there, and how those have been handled, and the burden on Cole Township, if any?
Well, with respect to the last almost 3 years, there's been zero burden on the Cole Township Police Department. I confirmed that with Chief Carpenter yesterday during a telephone conversation, which he indicated that he nor none of his officers made any physical responses to complaints or incidents at SCI Cole Township.
And just to clarify, Chief Carpenter is the chief of police for Cole Township,
Yes, sir,
is that
he is.
correct? Okay, thank you.
So essentially, I don't anticipate that would change, because by protocol and policy, I'm the one that has a responsibility of investigating all incidents related to incidents, investigations, and arrests pertaining to county inmates.
And how many incidents were there? Do you have that information, like in terms of?
In the last 3 years, I investigated about 50 incidents at SCI Cole Township and charged 35 separate inmates in various crimes.
Those didn't involve Cole Township, but they had no involvement in those in terms of the police department?
Had no involvement in any of that.
So basically, that's the same procedure we would follow at the new site when it's finished. You would be handling, or the county detective would be handling any issues, and we don't anticipate any need to contact Cole Township unless it's something extraordinary that happens but the more common everyday things that happen, you have never been called to Cole Township, or the township have never been called to Cole Township State Prison for our county, and we don't anticipate that happening unless an extraordinary circumstance at the new site.
On both those points, you're correct.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I would like to make a few comments. You want to finish?
Again, that's just one example of the information that's being put out there that frankly is very misleading to the public. There's going to be, probably in a few moments, some more misleading information, and red herring arguments are going to be put out there regarding this issue. Again, I think what's important to remember is we asked to have a conversation with the Cole Township commissioners. I can tell you that in my involvement as a solicitor with municipalities in the past, where large projects have gone in, those types of conversations would happen all the time, and everybody acknowledges that the current state of the law is that you cannot charge, a straight percentage on a large project like this. It ends up being a fee that is exorbitant, and it amounts to, in the language that the court uses, it's a backdoor tax. It's a backdoor way of taxing, in this case, the broad, all of the Northumberland County residents, and it's funneling that money into a single municipality, and it's doing it for, something that takes a couple hours of time, and the realistic charge for that is maybe a couple $1,000s. Usually what gets worked out is something that still well exceeds what the actual cost of administering the ordinance with respect to that project is. Here, we didn't even have that option to enter into something like that because, again, no one would come to the table. So that's why we end up in court. Even though we have a contingency that's been allocated in the budget for this project that would cover these fees, as well as any legal costs, because frankly, our solicitor will be handling it. He is paid a straight amount, whether he's handling this litigation or he's handling other things for the county. That is built in, but that doesn't mean that just because you've accounted for it and you've prepared for it, that you should be paying it. That's money that could be going into renovations of our courthouse, which needs renovated. It could be going into other projects. And that's what goes into, our decision-making with something like this. So, again, that's, I've said, I guess, everything I need to on it. At this point, again, after this vote, if this is in litigation, I would anticipate there would be less said about it, from us at least, because we will be in litigation. But I think it's important for people to understand where we came from on this and how we got to where we are. And it wasn't due to any lack of wanting to have a discussion about this on our part.
And even if the Cole Township Police were called out, which they're not, that still has nothing to do with the permit fees. That's a whole different issue. Now, we have already shown we take care of our own inside the prison, anything, but that is another issue. That has nothing to do with the permit fees anyway. Okay.
Comment?
I would like to say a few things. Appreciate that I was discredited before I even spoke. First, I can appreciate that commissioners want to reach out to another municipal entity in sort of a hand-in-hand way. In other words, our commissioners reach out to their commissioners and try to have informal discussions to try to come to some sort of compromise. I can appreciate that. But at some point, and that point probably should have been before we broke ground, because most of us have to pay permit fees before we start any construction or remodeling in our own homes or in our own businesses. They would appreciate that same respect. You don't have to have them come to the table informally. There's processes when you disagree with permits and fees, setbacks, all kinds of things the municipal government has. You can file for a full hearing on that. You can ask for a variance. You can present. You can have a court reporter there. And the reason that you would want to do those things is because they're very helpful in reducing the amount of time when you would appeal to the Court of Common Pleas. I don't understand why that wasn't done. They have a procedure for that. I did reach out to several members on the board and ask if that formal request was ever made. Just the request to have a hearing, to have a waiver on some of these fees, or to present their evidence about why it is that these fees should be reduced. That's the comment I want to make about that. As far as being clear-cut law, and that's the way it's being said, clear-cut law. Law is never clear unless it's a statute, and even then there's great argument. Case law is even less clear. Case law, when you get to handpick the cases that you think are in your favor, which is what lawyers are trained to do, at its best can be strong and it will have its weaknesses. And they're very fact-specific. I read this case law grouping that was in the letter, the threat to sue Cole Township, and it is not clear. And I'm going to tell you that. It is not. It has strengths. It has weaknesses, like most case law. I'm also going to tell you that out of, I think it was 5 cases, maybe all, or at least 4, the majority of these cases were all decided before the Uniform Construction Code. okay? The Uniform Construction Code lays out what is fair and what is legal. The Cole Township Commissioner's Ordinance, which lays out this 1% fee, is structured based upon, and even is written into their ordinance, that they follow the Uniform Commercial Construction Code, okay? So the cases that were presented as a threat were before that. And the only one case that won is because they charged a 10% markup fee. It was a gun club.
That's right.
10%, very, very high. None of these cases were government on government. They were all mostly contractors. There was one dispute for a sewer line being put in. They weren't really fact specific. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't make out an argument, and clearly you can. Again, pros and cons. What I am saying is, who are you suing for? Because here's an issue. The letter that was a threat letter, give us some or all of our money back, or we're going to file a class action lawsuit, what would the class be exactly? Because I also know this about the law. A government cannot sue for the benefit of private business entities, for their benefit, okay? And isn't it ironic that the last person that paid the 1% permit fee in this year is Mr. Vinnie Clausy, who built out a gas station in the Cole Township area. So he would be somebody that we're now going to be representing, saying that the 1% fee that he paid without balking or without asking for a variance or a waiver or a hearing on consideration of the same, we're now going to represent, so he gets a benefit, a business benefit. I'm not sure that's legal. But this is what I do know. I don't know about the law being definitely clear cut. I do know that you make arguments. Those arguments are expensive. Those arguments are going to cost money. And if you are a Cole Township resident right now, your tax dollars are both going to pay to file the lawsuit and defend it. And I know something else. Because I scoured the case law for this issue, it is not clear cut. It will be years in the making before there's a decision made, for the reasons that I just stated. And I can't say that it's clear-cut one way or the other. I would never have the audacity to do that. But what I do know is it's going to be expensive. We're all going to pay. And it's unnecessary. And there was never a formal request to consider their issues that they had. Never. In fact, they were induced by welcoming us. I mean, they were appalled when they found out that this project was going out there because nobody came to them and told them that the project was going out there. And then what they were told to calm them down is, think of the permit fees that you'll get. And then the audacity, and you can go ask them. If you don't believe me, don't anyone believe me. I'm just trying to be a voice for how they view this. They viewed this as a benefit of being jobs and the permit fees. And now they're literally on the right hand handed a check, in the left hand a letter that says you have 7 days to pay back some or all, not a percentage where they think the error is based on law or reason, not because they attended a hearing where they requested a variance and now they're going to appeal that decision. No, just private discussions between people that now, frankly, I think just don't want to back down because they don't want to look wrong to people. But even if you're right, even if you win, and it'll be way past this board, I guarantee you, okay, who really won and who are you doing it on behalf of? Because my phone, my emails, my messages are all, we don't want this. They viewed the prison as being something positive, and now that small glimmer of it being positive has turned into something negative. And so I'm saying, who's the class? Can you legally do this? Why wasn't this included in the contractor's bids, like all jobs are? And why didn't you file for the variance and have the hearing? And then just in the end, speaking on behalf of the people in Cole Township that have reached out to me, this is what you've asked me to do, and I'm doing it. Please don't do this. Please don't do this.
Can I just say something, please? Commissioner Best, I appreciate all your suggestions, but again, we've been working on this for 3 or 4 months, and I have not had seen you at a meeting making any of these suggestions to us until now. It sounds to me like you've been in more discussion with Cole Township commissioners than with us. I have heard none of this. I have not heard this at a construction meeting. We have had at least probably 10 since we've been talking about this. I have not heard any of these suggestions at a work session. So we're doing what we think all the taxpayers in Northumberland County would want us to do and protect their tax dollars. And again, I don't know the law. It seems like Ms. Best knows it a lot better than me. But if I don't do this, if I don't do what I think in my conscience is the right thing to do, then I'm not being honest with the people in the rest of Northumberland County, and also, by the way, with a lot of people in Cole Township, because a lot of people in Cole Township have talked to me and said that we should be doing this.
Okay, a couple of things. Had you had the variance hearing in Cole Township, those people would have come to that.
What time did you suggest to do that,
Okay,
Commissioner?
all right, let's back up. All right.
No.
I don't think, well, I don't know, there's a motion and a second, so we'll see if the vote goes through. There's no, necessarily any reason to table it. There's been extensive discussions on this previously with our legal counsel, again, also with our. Mhm. Mhm.
Right. Thank you. I want to recess, Rick. Let's go. I want to talk.
On there, but
Excuse me.
I would like to just make one more follow-up comment, because there's a lot of comments about what I don't do and what I do say and don't say. With respect to the prison meetings, because this is not a project that I support, I do not attend those meetings. However, there are very detailed summaries that are emailed to all of us, box by box, contract project by project, including permits and things like that. Never did it say in one of those boxes that any of the commissioners were having private conversations with another municipal entity that would make me aware of that. I did not know about this decision until I read it in the paper, like most people. And that is now being used against me when in fact that's a whole other problem, all right? A quorum is not to meet privately and make a decision about taking a county action without an executive session where we're all called. So it's not that I wouldn't have given my advice. And let me just say, last week I reached out to Mr. Shikitano to ask to see him about more than this issue. And I was told that I had to make an appointment. an appointment to see him, so I did that. I asked our secretary, our administrative assistant, to reach out and say, what day, early in the week, sooner rather than later, okay? And the response was, we'll have to get back to you on Monday. An appointment. So not only am I being kept out of county business decisions, kept out of press conferences, and the information isn't listed in the summaries for me to become aware of an issue, we're having private conversations about public matters, and that really is the root of the problem.
I would just like to point out one thing, and then we'll continue with the vote. As to any accusations about Sunshine Act violations, those are completely misplaced. The only thing that Ms. Best was not permitted to join in was when I had a conversation with the press, and Commissioner Chickatano wanted to meet with them as well. That is not a public meeting. That's not a deliberation as to county business. It was conveying to them each of our individual opinions about the matter. It was made very clear to them that no decision would have been made yet or discussed, because it was going to have to happen in a meeting, which it's happening here today. And I think that, more to Mr. Chickatano's point, in addition to the meetings that we have regarding the prison, we have regularly scheduled work sessions. We have regularly scheduled staff meetings. We all agreed almost 2 years ago as to what the dates and the times of those would be. They're the same time every month. These things get discussed at those as well. Those are public. The work sessions are public. The staff meetings is to go over the agenda and talk about, if there's other issues that come up that the department heads wanted to let us know about. But the work sessions are public and they're advertised. I do not believe that Commissioner Best has attended one of those in at least a year. I think she came to one a few weeks ago, an hour and 15 minutes late for the last 15 minutes of it. I'm not even sure why. Everyone was shocked that she walked into the room, because we hadn't seen her or something like that in over a year. These things get discussed there as well, and it's absolutely appropriate to have discussions like this at that. Frankly, if the press wanted to be at those meetings, they could be at them. I think you did come to one or two at the very beginning of the administration, and they tend to be, they aren't like these. They tend to be, we're all sitting at the table and kind of slogging through some things, and perhaps they aren't as interesting, and so the press doesn't tend to come to them, and they take a while. I mean, we may go for an entire morning with something like that. Again, these things all get discussed at that as well. I'm not here, and I'm not going to spend extra time to spoon feed it to someone who doesn't want to come, doesn't want or make extra efforts, or have our staff making all these extra efforts to communicate things to people who don't want to even show up for something like that. And that, it isn't that it was an inconvenient time or anything like that. We all agreed to these times. She just hasn't come. And that is a whole other issue. But I just want to make that very clear.
Well, one issue I'd like to make is Commissioner Best is true. She did ask to meet with me in private. And I did tell our secretary that I would meet with her at a work session. I will not meet with Commissioner Best privately. So be it.
Okay, I have one thing to say about the letter that went to the Cole Township Commissioners. A prior board where this gentleman sat on, there's a man named David Coletta. David Coletta received a letter stating that county action would be taken against him if he stepped on land. So you have, if you do this, then we're going to do that. We sued the county. My law office sued the county, and that referral was made by Chairman Shaw.
Actually,
he's friends with him.
We have a reporter who can negate that.
We settled that
case.
He's
finally asked Mr. Kaleda.
Northumberland County settled that case, sir. And the reason they settled that case is 2 commissioners cannot make a decision on behalf of the county that would impact the county without a third in an executive session, okay? So when you send a letter, and that letter did not say, we'll vote by it by public meeting. The letter said, you have 7 days to give back some or all of this money, or a class action lawsuit will be filed against you. And if they're encouraging my attendance when I show, and they're going to tell the press, but not me. That's an actual effort. By the way, that day was not on the calendar. Someone in this building called me and told me that that was happening, so I dropped everything I was doing to come over here, and I had no idea what it was about. So if an effort to be public is what he's trying to sell to you, there was definitely an effort to keep me out. And I'll tell you something else. The workshop meetings, these meetings that he's discussing, they're very problematic because they do make decisions about employees, about budget matters, and they make it outside of a public meeting. It doesn't matter if all three of us are there or not.
How would you know?
Okay?
You haven't been to one in a
And
year.
then finally, when I do appear, I see on the calendar who's going to be there. If it is an outside business, if it's one of our state representatives, if it's something that I know isn't an in-house decision about county action, I do show. And I tell you what, I showed last week, 911. It was on the calendar for one of his staff meetings, and I know that there's been some trouble there. So I showed for that meeting. I sat in that conference room with Commissioner Chickatano. 911 came over, and they asked, aren't we going to meet with all three commissioners? This chairman said, no, come into my office, and if it's important enough, we'll let the other commissioners know. Now, that's the type of thing that can really turn someone off, okay? Because you give up your day and you calendar it to be here, and you're shunned aside. And let's roll back a week before that. Mr. Aber visited our office. I was sitting in my office, and he wanted to talk about the recreation thing and something that was going on. He was asked into Commissioner Chickatano's office, not the conference room, and Mr. Aber duly said, should I be meeting with all three commissioners? I don't want to get anyone in trouble. And Mr. Chalk said, no, come in. She never comes here anyway. She doesn't need to know about what's going on now.
That's absolute lie.
Okay, so what I'm trying to get the point across is it's very much what the last board did to Commissioner Schock. Commissioner Schock was kept from emails, he was kept from meetings, he was shut out, he was made to not understand what was going on so that he couldn't even vote on contracts. And not only did I witness this with my own eyes and feel great frustration for the man, he told me, and I believed him. It is the same thing that is going on now.
Well, and I won't belabor the point, but the difference is, when I was a commissioner, there weren't work sessions. There wasn't meetings where we held them in a conference room and you could show up and be in them. In fact, within, I think, a week of Mr. Clausy taking over as the chairmanship, an email came out saying there would be no further staff meetings. And he would meet with whoever he wanted to when he wanted to. As to this specific thing on 911, my understanding was I was meeting with the 911 coordinator to go over something. I am the commissioner who is in charge of 911. I don't know if if there was the impression that people were going to be meeting with all the commissioners or not. So when I got into the offices, I just had them come into my office. I did not know that anybody was waiting to meet with them in another room. I think we had other meetings scheduled that day, and so to the extent that Commissioner Chickatano or anybody else was here, that's what I thought they were here for. As to the meeting with Mr. Aber, he did inquire whether or not we should be bringing you in. I think you might have been somewhere in the building, and we said that's up to you. And yes, I did say she's not here any of the other time for any of the stuff, so I don't know if you feel you need to have her here or not. But it was not stated that, no, you would not be allowed to be in the meeting.
And also, I want to add, Mr. Chickatano, the day that they decided to threaten to sue Cole Township and tell the public before they would tell me, Mr. Chickatano did say, we can all meet in the conference room. And he was corrected by Chairman Schock to say, no, we're going to meet in my office.
And that was a meeting with me, with the press, and if Sam wanted to be in it to convey his feelings as well, he could. That was
Why
not.
could I
that
not?
was not. That
Why
was,
could
that
I
was
not?
Because you
But then you come here and tell these people, I didn't tell you my point of view.
No.
I mean, that's what you did.
Yeah, no, you didn't before. You went in on a press conference where we're conveying, I'm conveying
Rick,
to them. I know,
can
we
we
won't
just-
get
let's
into it.
move
Let's just
on,
take
please.
the
Can
vote.
we just-
It's more of the same.
Move on, just move
Definitely is
on.
more of the same.
Yeah.
Just let's move on,
Okay.
please.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there anything further on the question?
I just have
Okay.
something to say. My vote is going to be decided on that if we do vote to go forward, I don't know what's going to happen here, that I am still open to discussion if there would be any chance of us discussing anything with Cole Township.
Always open to discussion.
At that time,
When you sue somebody, do you expect them to come back to the table? You've got to
I
be
know you
kidding
sued
me.
us
I don't
You
know
put
that.
them- You put them in a posture, where they can't. If you have something,
Okay. All right.
Right.
Well, there's,
Well, the same thing would be as far as, correct, correct.
If there's this kind of communication, lack of communication between you folks, I mean, and I can understand, having been a local government, how intimidating that might have been. What's another 30 or 60 days going to buy? It's going to save us some legal fees.
and actually, one of the concerns that we have as well is that now that the fee has been paid, that a legal action be taken so that we can ask for a court order to have those funds escrowed.
you can't do that in the
So-
law. It tells you right in one of those cases you gave me.
Okay. All right. There's been a motion and a second. Any further comment? All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed.
One opposed. Okay, we'll continue on.
A motion is needed to approve the following honorary letters and award anniversaries. Mr. and Mrs. John Vidalko, Shamokin, 50th wedding anniversary. Mrs. and Robert Poplawski, Mount Carmel, 50th wedding anniversary. Mr. and Mrs. Pierce Raybuck, Sunbury, 50th wedding anniversary. Mr. and Mrs. Ray Smith, Sunbury, 60th wedding anniversary. Scouting Award, Halia Carolyn Yoakum, Van Kirk, Northumberland. Summit Award recipient, Venturing Crew, 2325, BSA Susquehanna Council. Motion is needed authorizing travel requests and attendance at the following workshop seminars as in accordance with the county's personnel manual travel reimbursement policy as listed on your public meeting agenda.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made second on the question. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Solicitors report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Motion to adopt Resolution R92-17, bid award agreement between the Northumberland County Commissioners on behalf of the Weatherization Department and LTS Plumbing and Heating to provide HVAC services to weatherization clients. This is a ratification.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made second on the question. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to adopt Resolution R93-17, lease agreement between the Northumberland County Commissioners on behalf of the 911 Center and Constable Elias Schaefer for the leasing of digital radio transmitter receiver for emergency communications.
So
Motion.
moved.
Second.
Motion made second on the question. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to adopt Resolution R94-17, subgrantee agreement between the Northumberland County Commissioners and Delaware Township on behalf of the Department of Community and Economic Development for the use of fiscal year 2016 Community Development Block Grant funding in an amount of $68,830.
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
On the question. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to adopt Resolution R95-17, adoption of the Fair Housing Resolution to ensure compliance with the federal fair housing law and the Pennsylvania Human Relations Act as submitted by the Planning Department.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made second on the question. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to adopt Resolution R96-17, timber agreement between the Board of Commissioners of Northumberland County and Nathan Court, consulting forester for forestry services at the Moser Sports Complex located in Lewis Township.
So moved.
Second.
Made second on the question. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Motion to adopt Resolution R97-17, renewal of service agreement between the Board of Commissioners on behalf of the Department of Public Safety and Motorola Solutions for maintenance services for all 911 systems is a ratification.
So moved.
Second.
Made second on the question. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to adopt Resolution R98-17, renewal of services agreement between the Northumberland County Commissioners and Mid-American Energy Services LLC for electric services at county facilities. This is a ratification.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made second on the question. All in favor, state aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to adopt Resolution R99-17, renewal of services agreement between the Northumberland County Commissioners and Commonwealth of, I think it's just Commonwealth Security of Sunbury for maintenance services to security systems at various county buildings.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made second on the question. All in favor, state aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to adopt Resolution R100-17, agreement between the Commissioners of Northumberland County on behalf of Public Safety and Luzerne County Community College to utilize Northumberland County Department of Public Safety as a clinical site for paramedic students.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and second on the question. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to adopt Resolution R101-17, agreements, amendments, revisions, grants, leases, and reports between the Northumberland County Commissioners on behalf of the Human, Senior, and Social Services and the named service providers as listed, number 1 through 12. The above agreements, amendments, revisions, grants, leases, and reports are not with county employees, nor does their organizational contract list county employees as principals in their corporation or on their board of directors.
Can you do 2 through 12?
All right, I'll redo it. Motion to adopt Resolution R101-17, agreements, amendments, revisions, grants, leases, and reports between the Northumberland County Commissioners on behalf of the Human, Senior, and Social Services and the named service providers as listed, numbers 2 through 12. The above agreements, amendments, revisions, grants, leases, and reports are not with county employees, nor does their organizational contract list county employees as their principals in their corporation or on their board of directors.
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and second on the question. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to adopt Resolution R102-17, agreement, amendment, revision, grant, actually, what is this? All right. Agreement, amendment, revision, grant, lease, or report between the Northumberland County Commissioners on behalf of the Human, Senior, Social Services and the named service provider as listed, number 1.
Motion.
So moved.
Second. On the question. All in favor, state aye. Aye. Any opposed? One opposed. Okay, is there any old business to come before the board? Okay, is there any new business? Okay, any further public input? All right, well, I'll make a motion to adjourn.